So after a week off, it's me, Reedy, it's Thursday night, it's Beat the First Man night. Tonight I've got a top show for you. We've got the boys from the Mariners joining us and zooming in. They will give you the most unique five-a-side team we have had so far by far. And I will bring you the best ever Tales of the Unexpected. Now if that's not enough to keep you watching, I don't know what is. Roll the titles. So here we go then, episode 68 of Beat the First Man with me, Reedy. Merry Christmas to you all. This is going out 2 days before Christmas, so I hope you all have a fab day when it actually arrives. But let's get on with the fun and games that is the show. There's no Christmas special, there's no tinsel, there's no lights. Nah, it's just Beat the First Man, isn't it? Bit of cardboard, chair, me. What do you want? If you're new to the show, thank you very much for jumping on board the BTFM bus. Please be sure to click subscribe down below. That's really important so you never miss another episode. If you've been with us before, thank you for sticking with us and keeping watching. Keep spreading the word. Keep sharing the love out on social media to try and increase the numbers watching and keep the fun going. So, as always, leave your comments down below. Get involved. Drop your likes. Send me mince pies. Usual stuff. But let's get on with the part of the show we like to call How Old? Quite simply, we'll put up a photo of an absolutely wonderful, beautiful footballer from the past, and all you have to do is guess how old they were when that photo was taken. So this week is a man who started his career in Norfolk with the Canaries of Norwich City. He played 169 times for Norwich City, gained a reputation as a very steady left back. From there, though, he moved to the Midlands and the Sky Blues of Coventry City, where he had his most glorious moment being part of the team that won the FA Cup in 1987 when they beat Tottenham 3-2. 146 games later, it was a short spell at Birmingham City before he landed up at Hereford United, who he also went on to manage as well. But all that, including the FA Cup win, to be honest, pales into insignificance compared to appearing on this show. So what we want to know is when this photo of Greg Downs was taken, how old was he? Simple as that. Answer to be revealed later on in the show when Ted will be along as well. So the boys from Stoke Gabriel. So as we know, we've followed them now for about a year or so. They've had some frustrating results this year. A lot of 1-goal defeats. Well, last Saturday was surely right up there. So our boys raced into a 2-0 lead against Torridge side. And it looked like we were going to be bringing home the bacon. But sadly, the second half didn't quite pan out the way we wanted it to. Torridge side pulled 2 goals back pretty quickly, made it 2-2 within about a quarter of an hour of the second half starting, and they managed to grab a winner, leaving the boys with a 3-2 defeat, gutting. However, with a minus 65 goal difference, the gap is now down to just 2 goals behind Sidmouth. Level on points, just 2 goals worse off. Can we catch at Sidmouth and get off the bottom? Next up is the 27th of December, the short trip to Brixham. So come on, boys, Christmas treat. Come on, you Stokies. Give us that win that we desire. This is the time. Christmas bonanza. Now it's time, though, for a little bit of this. Right, now trust me, this Tales of the Unexpected will not disappoint. This, in my humble opinion, is the best one we have ever had. So, last week, Streatham Rovers were making the trip to Sydenham. Now, it would appear the visitors weren't too happy when the team sheets were handed in. Have a little look. Yes, so Sydenham arranged their team so that the first letter of every name spelt out SRFC are shit. Now, to make it the ultimate in shithousing, as you just saw, they elected to play Francis at number 3, despite the fact that Francis is actually a centre forward. But to make it say SRFC are shit, they had to put him at number 3. Absolutely brilliant. Ultimate shithousing. Sydenham FC, take a bow, take a round of applause. To be honest, I could almost give you 4D for that as well, because it's absolutely beautiful. Streatham Rovers, just have a bit of a laugh about it. It's quite funny, really. Everyone else is laughing. I know it's at your expense, but it's just a bit of fun. Honest to God. But Sydenham, respect to the shithousing, right up there. So Dad v Lad Fantasy Football, we were going to film it this week. The COVID postponements, it's just been an absolute nightmare with fantasy football. I'm sure any of you playing will know it's been a bit of a nightmare. So we've not recorded again this week because it's just all over the place. I can give a score update. It has got a bit messy, but Lad now leads me 994 to 938. So there's 56 points in it. But obviously we've got players that have played, haven't played. There's gaps. There's games to be played. So anything could happen. That 56 points could mean virtually nothing. There's probably almost a week's worth of games to come in yet. So it's still all up in the air. Gary Hamilton's still in front at the top. He still leads. He's 17 ahead. But again, until that all catches up, we're not really going to know the true state of affairs. And at the bottom, well, it's not changed. We'll just leave it at that, shall we? So on a cheerier note than me losing at Dad v Lad, anyway, let's have a bit more of this. The name game. So, you may recall with the name game, we changed it. We started giving you brilliant five-a-side team names last week. Well, this week we bring you another 5. I know, you are spoiled. You're right, correct, 100%. So, steel yourselves, get ready, write them down, and I want to see at least one of these team names appearing sometime soon. Number 1, Dynamo Chicken Kiev. Good effort. It's simple, but, you know, it's pretty good. Number 2, a little bit better, Stoya Niederrest. Very good. Very top thinking from Stoya Niederrest. Good one. Number 3, Real So Bad. We'll like that one a lot. That's good. That's very, very clever. Number 4, Sporting a Beer Gut. Yes. Simple, effective, cuts to the chase. Number 5, and my personal favourite of these 5, Brest Rummage Albion. Yes, Brest Rummage Albion. Good effort, lads. So another 5 team names coming your way next week. Honestly, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. I'll bring you another 5 next week, and I'm sure you'll agree it's a brilliant little twist on the name game and a lot of fun as well. So, right, road to Wembley. We need to really get you up to speed because having not had a show last week, the trophy in the Vase has kicked on a bit. So we'll start in the trophy. You may remember we had Marine. They were knocked out by Bradford Park Avenue on penalties. Bradford Park Avenue then drew Halifax Town. They played in midweek after their game was called off on Saturday. He's still keeping up. Well, Bradford Park Avenue lost on penalties. So Halifax Town won after penalty after a 3-3 draw in normal time. So now we follow Halifax Town in the FA Trophy. Well, they've been drawn on the road. A game that will be played in mid-January. They're away at Alfreton Town. So our new FA Trophy team is Halifax Town. So we have Swindon Town in the FA Cup. FA Trophy is Halifax Town. Let's move on to the Vase because that's been played as well. Now, you may remember we were following royalty in the shape of Royal Wootton Bassett Town. We were going to wear crowns and everything if they kept going through. Well, act of treason took place. Utter act of treason as Wootton Bassett went down 3-1 to Hamworthy United. So Hamworthy United are now our new FA Vase team. Now, the draw has been made and they have a home draw against Glebe. I've got no idea either. So that game, I think, is at the end of January. That's due to be played. So we now have Hamworthy United in the FA Vase. So FA Cup, Swindon Town. FA Trophy, Halifax Town. FA Vase is Hamworthy United. But all that just leads to one thing, which is Wembley, Wembley. We are beat the first man. We're on the road to Wembley. Wembley. Zooming in. Now, zooming in, we were joined by a couple of lads from the band The Mariners. We talked their music and their love of Leicester City and Notts County, respectively. A couple of lads on there. Listen out to the most unique five-a-side team ever, and also a clip of their single at the end of it, Dear Genevieve. So here's zooming in with The Mariners. So welcome to Zooming In, and I'm delighted to say we have some more musical guests for you just before Christmas. 2 of the boys from the band The Mariners. We are joined by Paul, a Leicester fan. How are we, Paul?
How do? Not too bad, cheers.
Good stuff. And we are joined by our first ever Notts County fan, young Luke. How are we, Luke?
Not bad. How are you?
Yes, not too bad at all. Thank you, mate.
Good stuff.
You may be our only ever Notts County fan. Who knows?
Hopefully it might inspire some more.
Bring them out.
Yeah, in the masses.
So before we get onto your love of football, which we will talk about, you're here to talk about your music first off. So tell us all about the Mariners, because there will be people out there who don't know where you are, what you're about. The sales floor is yours, gents. Take it away.
Right, yeah. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who don't know who we are. We are the Mariners. We're a 4-piece kind of, I don't even know what you'd class us as. A lot of people say we sound quite 60s, quite retro. I suppose that's up to people to make the mind on, I suppose, if they listen to us. But we like, I suppose, like Beatles, the Kinks, the Lars, that type of vibe, I suppose our music is. We've been together for years. We've known each other for years, but we've only really kind of got our act together in the past 2 years, I suppose, in terms of releasing stuff and becoming an actual fully functioning band. We started out about 15 years ago as a Beatles cover band. And I know it was 15 years ago because I always work everything out by football tournaments.
Of course,
so
like we all do.
As you do. So we one of our, well, not our first, probably like our fifth or sixth gig we were doing was World Cup 2006, Germany, when England went out to Portugal. So we watched that, got knocked out, had to go and do a gig straight after. Nice. So you kind of always kind of like bookmark your life with football tournaments. But yeah, so we've been going forever. Luke, anything to add to that?
Yeah, that was a tough night, especially after getting beat to Portugal, to try and then go up on stage and be all happy and entertain people. That was a tough gig, that one. But yeah, we write pop songs. We're a pop group, and sometimes people think that. I think people think pop's a bit of a dirty word, or not a word that people like to use for a group of lads that play guitars and whatnot. But that's what we do. We write pop songs in the same way that, I guess, that, like Paul mentioned, those bands in the 60s, Beatles, Kinks, the Monkeys, people like that used to write songs, really. It's,
I am a bit of a musical expert, and I say musical expert, I listen to music. I always compare all my guests' music to other bands. Now, it was quite difficult with you lot because you had so many bloody songs to go and listen to, so I could have been there for weeks. It just went on forever. I mean, you boys have been busy. So I've gone for, and you can, this could be harsh, it could be fair, it could be total bollocks. I'm happy to go with what you say. I've gone for a happy, jolly Mumford & Sons.
All right, okay. I can't say, I'll be honest with you, I can't say I'm familiar with their stuff. I know they exist. I know of them. They're not something I'd know. I think they did a song on an advert once. That'd be the only one that I'd consciously know of, to be honest with you. But yeah, we are happy.
It's not the worst compliment in the world, yeah.
No, we're happy and jolly, definitely.
One thing that, we love music, absolutely adore it. We spend a life listening to it. We have zero knowledge of anything really past like a certain time period. We like a few modern bands. We like the Coral. Before that, we like the Lars and John Powell. Before that, we don't know anyone. So you can say Mumford & Sons, and I know of them. Yeah. It's like a violin in it or something. That's about my knowledge. I couldn't name you a song. Well, it's really weird. We know nothing, and people like who talk about music because we're musicians. Ain't got a clue what they're on about half the time, and that's not being ignorant. We just don't know. We're in our own little bubble, in our own little world. We can't like it in our own little world, so we just stay in it.
Yeah, my collection sort of stops with like the late Kinks albums of the 70s, and that's about it. After that, I'm clueless. Other than McCartney solo, but yeah, that's about it for me.
I admire your honesty, gents. I have to say, it would be easy to sit there and blag it, which I do weekly. Now, the timing of you boys coming on here is quite brilliant because you've just released a new single called Lola Emmeline. Very feel good as well. It is very, very chirpy. You can't help but tap your foot to it, bang your hand on the desk to it. It's a nice tune. How's it gone down with people?
Well, I think it's gone all right. We've not pushed it much, to be honest with you. We had it ready, well, or close to being ready about a month or so ago, and we discussed about what to do. And I wanted to get it out for Christmas, purely because a year ago we released a song at Christmas called Dear Genevieve, which was a song I wrote about my eldest, my firstborn. And Lola Emmeline is basically a follow-up to that, really, because it's about my secondborn. So I like the idea and just the pattern of doing 2 Christmases consecutive, a song about each of my daughters. And so from a purely selfish point of view, I just wanted to get out from there. We've not really pushed it much. We've not really sent it to many people or anything like that, which we have done in the past. It's probably gone under the radar a little bit, but those that have listened to it and those that have been in touch, they've all liked it. So yeah, would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah. We've the way we record, we kind of self-record. We do everything ourselves. We don't really go into studios. We record it in my bedroom or where Luke is at the moment. We kind of like bounce songs around between each other. So as you mentioned earlier, we've got shitloads of songs, and this is kind of like the first song of our third album. Yes. So this was the first one that we thought, well, let's get the new lot recorded. And this one sounded really good straight away. So Luke was like, let's get it out there. And we normally give maybe like 6-7 weeks between kind of putting it to queue it up online to get it around to people and hopefully get played. This time it was like 2 weeks. So we knew we couldn't really get it to anyone. So we thought, well, let's just not create a buzz. Let's just announce that we've got a new single out 2 days before it goes out to see what happens. And yeah, like Luke said, it's people who have fed back like it. People probably don't even know we've released it, but we're all right with that. You know, we kind of make music for ourselves first and foremost. And if people like it, amazing. But it's not like I can go sleep at night not having to check Spotify, see if people are listening. I don't care, because I know that it's good and we've made it the best that it can be. So I'm satisfied. And if people like it, brilliant.
Yeah, it's a nice place. It's a nice place to be from our point of view, because to say you don't care about what other people think or how many listeners you get almost sounds a bit like rude or a bit like arrogant. But we don't. It's the fact that we just don't care, in the sense that it's just, we're not going to lose, like Paul says, you're not going to lose sleep over it. And we do it purely for ourselves. If anyone else happens to like the stuff and it strikes a chord with other people or anything like that, then we just class that as a bonus, really. It's purely stuff that in 20 years time, 30 years time, we'll be able to look back on and say, yeah, we did that. We did the first album, we did the second album, so on and so forth. And we were happy with it all. And that's all that really matters.
It's a good place to be as well, because I must admit, when I first started this, I got quite hung up on how many people were watching it. And actually, once you get your head around the fact as well, actually, I quite like doing this. It's good fun. I've met loads of people talking on here. I push it out. I get the nice comments every now and then, but I'm quite happy with it. And once you get your head around that, actually, it's a much, much better place to be in it than chasing figures to see how many streams you got, how many people watched it or listened to it.
Once you're in that zone in your own mind, where the output and the numbers and all that sort of thing doesn't make a difference, I think your enjoyment of it goes up even more. And I think you relax more, and I think you probably end up producing your best work as well that way. It's because you're not doing it for anyone else, so therefore you're not sort of compromising in anything you do. We don't write anything or we don't release anything compromising, thinking what other people might want to hear or what they this and that. It's purely what we want to do, and I think that's like with yourself. That's where I think your productivity, but also your enjoyment and your quality straight away will increase.
Definitely. Amen to that. So 2022 then, let's ignore the unicorn variant because we don't want to talk about that. What have you got planned for 2022?
Not much in the diary in terms of gigs. We've got nothing in the diary. But again, we're all right with that. We haven't even tried to get anything. We've played a few gigs post easing of lockdown measures or whatever you want to call it, from like June to November. We did a few. But we'll just kind of put pause on that because we're going to record another set of songs, get more out there. One of the things I kind of want to do, because eventually, this will come to an end, because it does with every band. But I just want like a really good catalogue, back catalogue, 100 songs. I want to get to like 100 songs on Spotify or wherever it is. Like, I think we've got 33. So we're about a third of the way through, in my mind, where we might get to. But we've got another massive batch. We love writing lists. Luke's probably not got it to hand, but he might have. But we've got we've got like A4 with just song titles on. But we know them all. We've got demos of them all. We're just going to work our way through them and get recording. That's what we love. Gigging's great if we can get a good gig. If we have to put in like loads of work, then it becomes a job and a chore. Whereas recording and writing music isn't. We love it. So we just focus on that a little bit more. And if people want us to gig, if the demand's there, we'll do it. But we're not going to like try and flog ticket after ticket to something and then people just don't turn up, because then that's disheartening. Don't want that.
No.
So that's it. But especially the first probably 3 months, that will take us to like April, and then we'll just see where we are. One big thing that's going to happen in January is we'll actually, hopefully, fingers crossed, get the vinyl copies of our second album, because our second album got released in June, but we got caught up in the vinyl backlog, which we didn't know at the time. So we placed the order back in March with about an 8-10 week lead time. So we got the test presses, approved them. We were expecting to receive them the week before our album was going to go live on, Spotify. Phone call, no album. There's no date for it. We were just then put on like immediate hold, and we just didn't know what was going to happen. Eventually, got told it might be Christmas. We thought, you've got to be joking, and now it's Christmas, still no album. But we've been told, I think, Luke, that it's January, so that's going to be hopefully big for us.
I have basically a phone call once every fortnight to a month sort of thing with the company that's dealing with it. And it's got to the point where I don't even enjoy having those phone calls because I know what's coming on each phone call.
Yeah.
And they've been honest with us, and they've been upfront with us. We've been messed around by a third party, another company on the continent. It's just one of them things, but it's been very frustrating, especially when the album, like Paul said, came out in June. And especially because we weren't told. I think we was due to take delivery of this stock on the Wednesday, and I got a phone call the Friday before. So you're talking like 5 days. It was soul destroying. So again, you've got to try and switch off and not let it get to you. But we've got people that have pre-ordered it, and we feel guilty on behalf of them. We feel bad about asking people to buy an album that we've not then got to dish out. You know what I mean? It's little things like that start to make it feel like a bit of a chore and can make it feel like a grind. But it's just one of these things, and we're definitely not the only band in that situation. So
no, it certainly appears that way anyway. So one last question on the music front, one that I like to ask every musical guest that comes on here. If you could collaborate with one artist, who would you go for? You can have one each. Dead or alive?
I go first. Right. We need a keys player. So I can't think of any off the top of my head that I'd maybe want in. I personally, one thing, and I mentioned earlier that we self-record, self-produce, DIY ethic and all that. I'd love to be produced by James Skelly from The Coral. As a half like collaborator. I won't really want him in the band. This is our gig. He can do his stuff. But I'd love for him to, go. I know it's not Par Street anymore, but wherever they're going to move to, I'd love for him to produce us just to see what he could get out of us. And obviously he'll have input in what we're doing. Love that. But in terms of another member or getting someone else with us, I'm quite happy with who we got, I suppose.
Luke? Yeah, I'm the same. We are the four of us. It's like I've been working and writing and recording and doing stuff with Paul since 2006 and the bass player since 2006. If I wanted to work with other people, I wouldn't be still working with these guys. I'd be somewhere else. So if we've been doing it for 15 years, then we might as well give it another 15 years. But on a similar theme as what Paul said, yeah, I won't mind if Skelly was in the studio with us doing something like that, or Ian Broody, because I'm a big fan of the Lightning Seeds as well. So either one of them, or they can come together if they fancy it, because obviously they're pals, so that they can both come down and we can have the input of Broody and Skelly, and we'll see what we can muster with that.
It's a win. It's a win-win. Then you can have both of them.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to football. So Luke, I'm going to start with you because you're the Notts County fan, which is club steeped in history, fair to say.
Yeah.
At one stage, it was the oldest football league club in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously now plying their trade in the National League, or the Conference, as we like to call it, because the National League just sounds shit. So I'm going to call it the Conference. It is what it is.
Still the Vauxhall Conference in my head.
Yes.
Definitely Vauxhall, yeah.
So be honest, Luke. How much do you hate that league?
Again, it's a common theme or a saying of mine. It is what it is. It's new for those that go week in, week out to games. It's new grounds to experience. It's new towns, new coastal places that you've maybe never even heard of.
Yeah.
In a different brand of football, and I guess in a strange way, it's probably quite refreshing from the norm of everything else that goes off in football and sort of the hierarchy in the elite divisions. It's probably quite refreshing for some of them. I'll be honest, I don't go down much anymore. I used to be a season ticket holder throughout the 90s, early 2000s, and then it's gradually faded for me a little bit. I've had the odd year where I've had a season ticket and I've sort of gone back down and I've gone quite a bit. And I had the odd season where I went home and away again in the sort of mid 2000s. But I don't miss certain divisions. I just miss the eras. So I miss the 90s. I miss the time when Notts, Derby, Leicester, and the other one across the river from us were all in the similar divisions. I like those years where it was like all of the East Midlands were in the same division, or at least they were like bypassing each other around the same time. Coventry as well, and I miss those times. So I don't miss divisions. I miss the sort of the rivalries and the familiarity, I guess, you get of playing against the teams that are just down the road.
You missed the Anglo-Italian Cup. That's what you
and
missed.
The Anglo-Italian Cup, because obviously we were the most successful English side in the Anglo-Italian Cup as well. So definitely miss that one.
For those who haven't looked at the National League, stroke conference, stroke Vauxhall Motors, whatever we're going to call it, it is an insane league this season because the top 7 are like separated by about 3 points when I looked last week. It's mad. So
well, if you'd gone back like a fortnight ago, or well, maybe a bit longer than a fortnight, 3 or 4 weeks ago, it looked like Notts County had a bad run, a few results, and it looked like they were way off the pace, and it was just going to be another whole year in the National League, and again rebuilding in the summer. But all of a sudden, it only takes a couple of wins in that division because people are picking up points off each other. It only takes a couple of wins, and suddenly you're back in it again. I guarantee you, if Notts going to lose the next 2 games again, you'll have the fans being all pessimistic and thinking that it's another year in the doldrums, so to speak. But it can change really quick. I think people normally talk about the Championship like that, don't they? That all it takes is 1 or 2 wins, or 3 or 4 back-to-back wins, or what have you. In the National League, that's even highlighted even more. It's sort of extenuated even more, really.
I think if people are looking for a break from the Premier League nonsense, that's the league to be watching at the moment because it's that close. I mean, I was genuinely gobsmacked how close that top half of the table is because I hadn't looked for a while, I'm not going to lie. And just there's so many teams up there that could genuinely lay claim to thinking they're going to win it this year.
And it does leave your hopes open. At least that means for a lot of fans, there's maybe 10 clubs where all the fans can have a bit of hope in the new year as well, which again, you don't always get that in most divisions. So and that's what football is, isn't it? Hope. It's all about hope, and the hope that next year or next month's going to be slightly better than the last. So there's plenty of that in the National League. Yeah.
Well, talking of where we used to have hope, the top flight, where we don't have any hope whatsoever anymore. Now it's just to turn up and try and avoid getting done by 7. Thank you. I'll get it out early. So Leicester then, Paul, you are the most consistently inconsistent side this season I think I've ever known, because you can't decide whether you want to be brilliant or shit. You genuinely can't make your minds up. So where is it going to end this season for Leicester?
I have no idea. It's difficult being a Leicester fan. It shouldn't be, but it is, because they kind of get your expectations and your hopes up because of what we've done over recent seasons. So I'd be chatting with my mate before the first game of the season was Wolves. I was chatting, like, what do you reckon? We just won the Charity Shield. We look quite good in some of the friendlies. It's friendly, so it don't matter. But, you think, is it going to be the year? Top 4 possibly this year. You kind of look around, you think, well, I don't know, maybe Man U will drop out because Ollie's in charge. And then we've just been a bit crap all season. We can't defend. That's where the problem is. Attacking wise, we're all right. We've still got that kind of same flair. We're scoring goals, and Vardy's still banging them in, and Maddison's hit a bit of form. But defensively, we're absolute shambles, completely not the shambles. And it's not helped that Fofana's broke his leg pre-season. It's not helped that Justin's been out nearly a year, and our back four's just kind of patchwork and put together, and Ricardo's out. So 3 mainline back 4 have been out nearly all season. So you don't want to blame injuries. We're just something missing. Like, when you see your team and they're flying, you've got that fire in the belly and the crowd's up.
Yeah.
The moment you're going down and you're kind of thinking, well, we'll definitely concede, probably from a corner. If we score 2, it'll be all right. It's just a little bit, I don't know. It's a weird season, this is. And it seems like it's very similar to the season after we won the league. We were awful that season. We did all right in the Champions League, but league-wise, we were terrible. It's not as bad as that, but it's a little bit that feeling. So you win the FA Cup, and then it's like you've kind of scaled the mountain. What do you do next? And it's a little bit like that. And whether there needs to be a few changes to the team, I don't mean that as in like the players aren't good enough, but is that hunger still there? Have they gone as far as they can with us? Someone like Tielemans, who's world class, too good for us, hasn't been the same player this season. But is that because he's not signed a contract and he's looking to be a top 4 player now? Hopefully not in this league, but he could play for anyone. He's that good. His contract's running out. Does he want it as much? And I just look around, and possibly it's a bit like that. I mean, when we played you a few weeks ago, we were awful. We just didn't turn up. And I know we, spawned a draw, but we weren't good. That's not the Leicester that I've watched for a few seasons. And, we beat Newcastle, but they're horrendous. We beat them 4-0 the other week, but that doesn't really mean too much. And now we've got a squad riddled with COVID, so God knows what we're going to be like when we come back. And the 2 games we got over Christmas that now the league have said we've got to play back to back. So Boxing Day 28 and on 28th, that's Liverpool and Man City and Liverpool. I mean, that's just not fair. So
hang on, we've just had Chelsea. We've just had Chelsea, Man City. Then we have an Arsenal and now Liverpool. And you're moaning about your 2 games.
I think it's fair to say that fans of all lower league clubs, our heart bleeds for you.
I tell the funniest thing. I was just when he turned around and said, "It's really difficult being a Leicester fan."
I know.
Your face is absolutely beautiful.
Let's get the violin out. I did tell Paul. I remember sat down the pub with Paul just not long after they won the title, obviously a few years back now. And I did warn. I said, "That's it. You're never going to get that again." Like I say, with football, it's all about hope. It's all about dreams. You've got it because you no matter how ambitious you want to be, Leicester are never going to. I don't think they'll ever go on to that next stage where you're talking about consistent Champions League contenders and all that. So they're basically the pinnacle of what you can get in football is winning your own title in your own country. They've had it, and not only have they had it, they've had it in that fairy tale way. It will never be beaten. It's sort of that's it. Game over, really.
That's what I meant by that. Football's never going to be the same again because you've already had that amazing moment. And so it's not the same. It took me quite a few years to kind of get over it in like an amazing way, but it just wasn't the same. You can't. If 2 years ago you win in the league and then like you're losing 4-1 at home to Crystal Palace, it's gone shit, and it's not shit because you're still 9th in the league or whatever, and that should be amazing. I remember going down to League One and going to Hereford away, and you're thinking, God, you're all right. You walk in the league, but you're thinking, what's happened here? And it should just be the most amazing time, but it's quite difficult to get up to games sometimes, And then you win the FA Cup, which was amazing. You get into the Europa League and you stink the competition out, and now you're in the Conference League, and you're just like, I don't know. And I know it's not National League, but it's still frustrating.
It's tough, isn't it? Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough being a footballer.
Right, gents, let's move on to the bit the musicians love, the five-a-side team. So simple rules. You have to have seen them play live. 1 goalie, 1 defender, 2 midfielders, 1 striker, 1 team between the band. That's the only downside to being in a band and not being a solo artist, is you've got to agree on a team between you. So let's kick off with your goalkeeper then. And very, very professional. I have to write down who you picked, put the pictures on, because there's no fancy gadgets I can press buttons on.
Oh, you might have a couple in this team then that no one's ever. In fact, I say you might. You will have a couple in this team that you've never had before. So right. I'm going to go through. I'm going to start off with the keeper. So the way we divvied it up is we shared 1 and then we went with 2 each.
Okay, cool.
So I'm having the goalkeeper, and my goalkeeper is Steve Cherry. I don't know if you remember Steve Cherry, or whether many of your viewers will remember Steve Cherry. But he's a Nottingham lad. If you look at his career stats and all his figures, Notts was his club. He played for loads of clubs, but Notts was his club. He made over 250 league appearances for Notts. He was the goalkeeper for Notts when we reached Wembley for the first time in our history in 88, 89. And again, the following season, he was the goalkeeper in those 2 big seasons. He was also the goalkeeper in the season when we then made the top flight, and we got relegated basically from the top flight the year before it became the Premier League. So we got relegated at just the wrong time. But Steve Cherry was definitely not one that you'd have blamed for that sort of relegation. He was an absolute star. He was a good bloke as well. So the great thing about supporting Notts in the late 80s, early 90s was the club was very, very accessible. So I remember in the summer, you could pop down to a local cricket club, and Notts County's football team used to play the cricket team in a pre-season friendly. No one went. You'd have maybe a dozen people there. So I remember my dad taking me down, and you'd be on the boundary watching this cricket game, and you just go and sit next to Steve Cherry. You just start chatting to Steve Cherry, and then he'd be next in bat. So then he'd get up and he'd go and have his bat, and Tommy Johnson would walk off, and I'd start chatting to Tommy. It was just amazing. And thinking back to how football was then, and and as I say, they were a what you'd class as the old Division 2 and then Division 1 team.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get anywhere close to that sort of thing these days and talk to people like that. But yeah, Steve Cherry was a local bloke, and he was a local. He played for Derby as well. He started off at Derby, but yeah, the club that he was mainly known for was Notts. And he was just a good goalie. He had a bit of a cheeky side to him. He was a bit of a wind-up merchant at times, but he was just the mainstay of that Notts side from when I first started supporting and when I got my first season ticket in '88 through to the sort of mid-90s sort of thing.
And you were right, the first person to choose Steve Cherry.
thought I might be.
So I might be wrong, but I think this whole five-a-side team, I don't think anyone will have any of these players. I might be wrong.
Big call. Well, let's see. You never know. Who are we going for as your defender then?
Right. So I could, if we're going 90s, and so we're doing like Notts and Leicester, obviously, you should go for someone like Steve Walsh, but this is five-a-side football, and he'd be awful. He'd be horrendous at that, wouldn't he? I mean, he'd be caught out. He's got no pace, so he won't be able to defend. So
don't say it too loud, because he literally lives across the road from me. He does, genuinely.
Oh, he's good with Ryan, yeah. So I needed a defender that's actually a good footballer, and it's not many in the 90s, especially for Leicester, who were like that, who was actually a footballer and a defender. So I've gone for Pontus Kamark. I don't know if you can remember Pontus Kamark.
Blimey. Yeah. I know the name, but
I was not expecting that.
Oh, I wasn't either.
Me and Paul haven't told each other about two other picks, so I was not expecting that one.
So Pontus Kamark, team that won the Premier League, and you've picked Pontus Kamark.
Yeah. Well, we've gone 90s, and so this is an era where Leicester won the League Cup, and so we went horrendous. But it was a team of journeymen and cloggers mainly, with a sprinkling of quality. But Pontus Kamark was a really, really good footballer. So he was Swedish national team. When US '94, when they finished, was it third?
Yeah.
With Henrik Larsson up top. Yeah. So Kamark played in defence. He was a right back, but he was quality. So he wasn't like an Alexander Arnold bombing up and down, but he was really technically a good footballer. And he was the fella who man-marked Janino in the League Cup final, just didn't give him a kick, just followed him around and just marked him out of the game. But if we're talking five-a-side, that's the kind of player that you want. He's good receiving it, pass it, and he was just a very, very good technical footballer. So he was a kind of cultured. There you go. He was a
That's the word you were looking for.
Yeah.
Tactical thinking as well. I like it, gents. I like it a lot.
Yeah. No, he was a good lad as well. And he was unfortunate because he ruptured his cruciates on his debut for Leicester. So he played West Brom away, and we signed this right back, and he was amazing. It's like, who's this fella? He couldn't even pronounce his name, and he was brilliant. But after about 60 minutes, he ruptured his cruciates. Didn't see him for about 18 months, because back then you do it for a long time. So we didn't see him. And then he came back, and it was under O'Neill. So I signed him, previous management signed him, and he just kind of just slotted in like effortlessly. But he was really, really good footballer who no one really remembers, because you think of Leicester around that kind of time, it was Taggart and Walsh and Elliott and these big men back who just, lump it forward and get the red on corners. But Kamark was a touch of class.
Right, there we go. 2 for 2. You're right. So far, no one has got either of those two. So let's step into midfield.
So the first midfielder was the joint pick. So we had to try and think of someone that had been at both. And to be honest with you, from my point of view, it was quite easy. I don't know how much Paul probably would have wanted this one, but it was Mark Draper. So are we the first ones to have Mark Draper?
You are. Let me let you into a little secret. My lad goes to college, and Mark Draper runs the college.
So it's the Draper Norton Soccer School.
That's the one.
Yeah, so I sort of know Dave Norton. So I actually run a art business where I draw football grounds.
Right. Okay.
Luke Williamson art, a little plug there. Yeah, but Dave Norton, I've met Dave Norton through that. You see, so he's a big Wolves fan. And when he came up to me once, he was like, "I love your stuff," and he says, "You're a Notts fan, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I got chatting to him, and I recognised him. And then I had to sort of drop it that it wasn't really him, but it was his business partner that was like one of my footballing heroes and my footballing icons. And I was on a market at the time selling my art prints, and he phoned Drapes up, and he was like, "You got to come down and meet this lad." But yeah, Mark Draper was he was a footballing hero of mine. Just a brilliant box-to-box midfielder. Like a lot of Notts players of that era, he sort of went on and had a bit of a top flight career as well, which you wouldn't get in Notts teams that followed this. So that sort of Notts side under Warnock, like I say, you had your Craig Short and Chris Short, both played top flight football. You had Draper, Richard Dryden, and then another one that I'll come on to in a bit, but I'll mention it. But you had a few that went on to play top flight football, and Draper was easily, like Paul said about we said about the culture of Pontus Karaman. Draper had that, but he also had the tenacity. He was just an all-round box-to-box good midfielder, and I just loved him. And again, he was synonymous with that second Wembley trip. The first Wembley trip, Draper only made the bench in Warnock's first Wembley side, but in the second Wembley trip, he made the lineup. But yeah, he was just an absolute star at Meadow Lane, absolute star.
Good stuff. Right, 3 for 3. Now, because Zoom are really tight and only give you 40 minutes, and I get a special little countdown clock, which tells me when you're running out of time. We've got 7 minutes. We're all right. We've only got 2 more to get in. Cool. So, second midfielder, gents, 3 for 3. Can we go 4 for 4? Right.
So this was my favourite player as a kid. Amazing footballer. Muzzy, is it? Anyone have Muzzy? Is it? Muzzy, is it, was just a superb footballer. Should have played for England, couldn't get near the squad, so had to go and, play for Turkey instead. He was so good. He was an all-round complete midfielder. Like Luke said about like Draper, box to box, that was his. He was like Roy the Rovers type footballer. He'd slide in, win the ball in our own 6-yard box, and then dribble it around 4 players, play it to Guppy, who'd cross it in, and he'd get on the end of it as well. He was really, really underrated. And he scored best goal I've ever seen anyone ever score, which was the overhead kick against Grimsby. And that was, if you've not seen it, just YouTube it.
I was going to say, we're all going to be YouTubing it after this now.
Yeah. You think about that it wasn't the 90s. It was like 2001 maybe. But if you think about like synonymous overhead kicks of that era, you think like Trevor Sinclair, that one that kind of looped up to him and he took it on his over. He was kind of, Andy Impey was running down the wing and crossed it in, but it was behind, So had to kind of adjust himself, and he was outside the box, just span, like proper. It wasn't like a side-on scorpion kick. It was just behind him. Jumped up, overhead kick, top corner. It was just unreal. He was technically an amazing footballer, and he's the only one from like my era as a kid when I used to watch him. It's when I first started going down. I've never stopped going down, but you watch football back then and you romanticise about it, but really it was technically a bit shit. It was like lump it forward, and the pitches were awful, and it was good. But now you watch it, it's so technical. It could slot into that because he was such a good footballer, really underrated, and he would run this. He'd run this team. He'd score for fun.
Right. So, can we make it? I'm sure we are going to make it 5 for 5. I'm absolutely convinced. So who have we got as your striker?
It's a bit surprising in a way that it will make it the complete set, to be honest with you, because everyone should pick this guy because he was arguably one of the best players in the world. It's Tommy Johnson. Now, I know he's more well known for, people always say, if you mention Tommy Johnson, they mention Villa or they mention Celtic. He played far more for Notts than he played for them. He got Notts promoted from the old 3rd division with his goals. He then got Notts promoted, and this is when he was just came through as a teenager. Then he got Notts promoted from the old 2nd division to the top flight. But unfortunately, we then flogged him, and he went to Derby, and that's when he then went and played around a few clubs. But his goal scoring record was always fairly good wherever he went. But at Notts, it was excellent. But probably the thing I really remember most about Tommy Johnson, he was the reason that I wore number 11 when I played when I was younger. He was the reason that I practiced my left foot so much, because he was a lefty. But Tommy Johnson he came around my house one night with my auntie, who at that time was in her early 20s, and she'd met Tommy Johnson on a night out. And I'm a young lad. I'm only like maybe 8 or 9. and I hear the key come in the door, and my auntie comes in, and I can hear this Geordie accent at the front door, wondering what's going off. I go onto the landing, and I look down the stairs, and Tommy Johnson had brought her home. So they'd met up in a nightclub. He probably shouldn't have been out because he was probably had a game that weekend. But there he was at my doorstep, and he wanted to come in for a cup of coffee. And she was I think she was playing it a bit easy, like bit coy. She was like, "Oh no, you shouldn't really come in. You shouldn't really come in." And he was like, "Go on, let us come in for a cuppa. Let me." She says, "No, it's not my house. It's not my house." She says, "Come on, you told me your nephew's a big Notts fan." "Oh no, you shouldn't really." And I thought, well, he's going to come in. He's going to come in. Then all of a sudden the door closed and he was off and he was gone. And I didn't talk to my auntie for probably 6 or 7 weeks after that. I was absolutely distraught. Never mind my auntie pulling Tommy Johnson. I thought I was going to have the best player, as far as I was concerned, the best player in the world, sat in my living room drinking coffee, and me coming down at midnight to come and see my hero.
How dare your auntie play hard to get?
And that's stayed with me all these years. It's killed me. But I've got his signature on a shirt, and like I say, he's the reason I wore number 11. He was the reason I practiced my left foot, and he was just an absolute legend for Notts. And a lot of Notts fans will hold him up as one of the best, which is saying something, because we had some good sides in the late 70s, early 80s, but of that 90s side, Tommy Johnson was the one that was just that cut above. Like I say, his goals record was good. He was just a class act.
Brilliant, gents. That has been an awful lot of fun. I've loved that trip down 90s memory lane. It's been wicked. Straight after this, there will be a clip of the boys in action with their song from last Christmas, Dear Genevieve. So their new single is out now, which is called, quickly checks his notes because he can't remember the name of it.
Lola
Emmeline. I couldn't find it on my piece of paper. But for now, the Mariners, thank you so much for coming on. Much, much appreciated. And it is back to the show. There we are then, the Mariners for you, and Luke's face when Paul said it was tough being a Leicester fan. Absolutely priceless. It was worth the chat alone just for that face. Good lads, so why not head over and download some of their tunes. You heard it, the new single is out now. That was Dear Genevieve that you just watched. So go and have a download of that as well. There's loads of their songs on there to download. Genuinely, they've got, you know, a good catalogue of songs on there to go and have a listen to. So why not go and give them a try out today. So here is our old trusty sidekick, Ted. So how are we, my friend? Living the dream, Reedy. Being slightly sarcastic by any chance at all, Ted? Yep. You know me. Well, that was a bit of a satellite delay there, Ted. What's going on? Nothing. It's Christmas. I just like settling down and doing absolutely nothing at Christmas except watching a good Christmas movie like Die Hard. Ted, I'm not having it. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. I'm not having it. Reedy, when was Die Hard filmed? At Christmas, Ted. Therefore, it's a Christmas movie. Case closed. Ted, absolutely not. Anything else planned at all, Ted? Anything else coming up? Watching Ted and Ted 2. So modest, so wonderfully modest. Anyway, have you got any nominations for this week's Little Knob of the Week? If you've not seen it before, here is the Little Knob of the Week. Reedy, Premier League managers this week were falling over themselves to win Little Knob of the Week. Banging on about players missing due to COVID. Rodgers, Frank, they were all at it. Got it, Ted. So which one of them two won it then? Brendan Rodgers or Thomas Frank? None of them, Reedy. Someone else went the extra mile. Really, Ted? Who stepped up and above beyond those two? Our old mate, Thomas Tuchel, was at it again. Ah, yes, Thomas Tuchel. So he wasn't happy at Chelsea's request for a postponement of their game last weekend. And he made noise about other club, blah, blah. Anyway, they had a Carabao Cup game against Brentford in the week. And let's just get his quotes. As you know, we don't want the legal teams coming down on me. So, and I quote, "We may have to call on some of the inexperienced young players. They trained with us yesterday and today." Okay. "This is totally against our nature, but maybe we are forced to do it." Now, Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, we're all told about the wonderful academies at Premier League clubs. We see the under-18s, the under-23s Premier League, all with the idea that these players kick on, and then the minute you have to use them, whine, moan, honest to God. They should be part of your squad anyway. You should be pushing the good ones through instead of just going splashing out another 100 million on another player. So for his completely blinkered look on first team, Premier League football and life, Thomas Tuchel, you are Ted's Little Knob of the Week. So Ted, are you popping back later for how old the reveal? Yep, and it's a really easy one, Reedy. Okay, Ted, yeah. We'll see you later on then. Yeah, because he's been so good at it so far. Right, now it's time for a little bit more music as we head on over to the show's very own music man as we go and see what Kian Says Listen Up to this week.
Hello guys, welcome back to another Kian Says Listen Up, where I'll give you a song to listen to. Not really from this week, because this isn't from this week, but it's a Christmas song, because obviously when this goes out it will be Christmas. Well, Thursday, so nearly Christmas Eve. This is Krampus by the Lathams. It's not really like a proper Christmas song, it's a bit anti-Christmas, but it's good, it's definitely worth a listen. So the song that I got everyone to listen to, I'm just watching the NFL. The song that everyone to listen to this week is Krampus by the Lathams. Merry Christmas, have a good New Year as well.
There we are then. It's all about a Christmas tune. Well, sort of. It's not a very cheery Christmas tune. I wouldn't get the kids around the fire and listen to it if I was you. But he chooses Krampus by the Lathams. It is a wicked tune, but it's not your standard Christmas tune. But it is a wicked tune. So go and enjoy that one now, as Kian said. So, lineal European Cups. Now, if you think the road to Wembley was busy with activity, check these bad boys out. So, the lineal European Cup. The boys from Bochum, you may remember they had to defend the trophy against Borussia Dortmund. Well, they did that, but they then promptly lost to Arminia Bielefeld. So Arminia Bielefeld became the lineal European Cup holders. Last weekend, they travelled to RB Leipzig. No problem. Done them. 2-0. So Arminia Bielefeld are our new lineal European Cup holders. They will now have the trophy till the 8th of January when the Bundesliga resumes. So they've got it for a couple of weeks now. Over Christmas, they can have it on the mantelpiece while they're opening their presents. Over in the lineal UEFA Cup, not only has the trophy changed hands, it's changed countries. So Bayer Leverkusen held the trophy. They travelled to Ferencváros in the other UEFA Cup. I think they call it the Europa League or something nonsense like that. Anyway, they lost to Ferencváros 1-0. So the trophy went to Hungary. Now, Ferencváros clearly were very happy with this and OD'd on Hungarian drink because they lost their next game to Debrecen. So Debrecen became the lineal UEFA Cup holders. Debrecen at the weekend, they were away at the bottom side in the Hungarian league, Guillemot. I apologise to all our Hungarian viewers. both of you. But they got a 0-0 draw, so they retained the trophy. So Deborah Chen will hold the Lineal UEFA Cup, and they will hold it to the end of January because football doesn't return in Hungary till the end of January. So Armenia Bielefeld are the Lineal European Cup holders. Deborah Chen are the Lineal UEFA Cup holders. All change in the Lineal European Cups. So the mighty Ted is returning. So it can only mean one thing. It's that time where we reveal the age of how old. Now, Ted, you brilliantly claimed that this week's was easy. Yep, Reedy, got it. Absolutely no problem at all. Every other week you bang on about it's the stupidest game in the world. It's ridiculous. Why do we even bother? It's pointless. How are we supposed to get this right? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no worries. Honestly, cut to the chase, Reedy. I've got it this week. No problem at all. Okay, well, what are we saying then, Ted? Easy. 26. Show me the prize. So, Ted, 26, you say. Okay, well, let's see. So when this photo of Greg Downs was taken, he was 26 years old. Bloody hell, Ted, you were not only were you right, but you were incredibly confident. Why were you so confident this week? Easy, Reedy. You left your laptop open. I saw the answer. Boom! The mighty Ted strikes when you are least expecting it. Ted, you're a cheat. Nothing more, nothing, just a cheat. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. What a waste of time. Whatever, Reedy. I'm off to the winners' enclosure. See you later. Off you go, Ted. Enjoy. Have a good Christmas. You cheat. So there we go. It's another episode done and dusted. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, guys. I do seriously appreciate it for being part of the BTFM bus. It means the world. If you hasn't subscribed, please do so down below. If you have, thanks so much for watching. Drop us some likes, drop us some comments. For now, though, it's ding ding. Next stop will be Thursday, the 6th of January, which will be our first show of 2022. So to all my Beat the First Man viewers, a massive, massive Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. And as always, stay safe, guys.